It wasn't just a creature. It was an impossible engine of hunger, a living torpedo with a face like an alien moon. Imagine a body built like a tank, yet shaped to slip through water like silk. Picture two spiny, grasping appendages at the front. Not claws exactly, but precise, scissor-like arms that could scoop and shred. Now give it a mouth that was a circular jaw, a ring of stacked plates that closed like a suction cup and ground prey into pieces. That thing ruled the seas before fish had even become common. We begin on a planet that looked strange to our eyes, the Cambrian, about 515 million years ago. The oceans were a noisy, crowded place, reefs and mats of strange life, armored trilobites crawling on the seafloor, soft-bodied worms burrowing in sediment, and tiny swimmers flickering in shoals. Into that world came a predator so different that when paleontologists first found its fragments, they thought they were several animals. Fossils scattered across rock layers told a fractured story. A pair of frontal appendages here, a disc-like mouth there, a long segmented body elsewhere. Only later did scientists reassemble the parts and realize they had uncovered a single animal, Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris, the name literally means strange shrimp, looks too strange to be comfortable in any modern sea. It had a flexible, flattened body with a series of lateral flaps along each side, like wings made of soft armor. These flaps moved in waves, propelling the animal forward with elegant, undulating strokes. Its tail ended in a fan that acted like a rudder. Up front, the pair of appendages extended like two grappling hooks, each lined with spines and tipped with a claw-like tooth. Between them sat that bizarre mouth, a circular, tooth-lined maw capable of crushing armor. But Anomalocaris wasn't merely a predator by design. It was an apex predator, the top of its food chain, a fact we only realized after decades of detective work. For years, researchers argued about how it lived. Some imagined it a bottom feeder, sifting through mud. Others thought it preyed on soft-bodied animals. Then came fossil sites with extraordinary preservation, layers where even soft tissues left impressions, and scientists could finally see the whole animal and the scars it left on its prey. There were gouges on trilobite shells, patterns in rock that matched the reach of those frontal limbs. Slowly, the image sharpened. This was a hunter that could chase, seize, and crush. The Cambrian seas had given birth to a predator built for both speed and precision. But how did such an alien machine evolve so early? How does an animal with compound eyes, complex limbs, and a powerful maw appear in rocks that predate most modern predators? The answer is stranger than you think, and it forces us to reconsider what predator meant at the dawn of animal life. It hunted in a world where light and shadow meant life or death. To survive, Anomalocaris didn't simply get bigger, it upgraded its senses. Imagine compound eyes the size of marbles, perched on short stalks, each eye a mosaic of tiny facets. These weren't the blurry, basic sensors of some early animals. They were precision instruments, packed with lenses tuned to pick up fast motion, subtle contrast, and the kind of detail that lets a hunter lock on to a moving target. Fossils from exceptional sites, the Burgess Shale in Canada, the Emu Bay Shale in Australia, and other Lagerstätten where soft tissue sometimes survives in rock, gave paleontologists their first clear look at these eyes. In some specimens, the eye structures are so well preserved that researchers could map the arrangement of facets across the surface. The takeaway was obvious. Anomalocaris saw the Cambrian world with acuity previously thought impossible so early in animal evolution. It could detect movement at a distance. It could sweep the waterline for glints of armored shells. In short, it saw like a predator. But seeing is only part of the story. The front appendages, two jointed arms ending in rows of spines, were the arms of a practiced hunter. They could fold and reach, drawing prey toward that circular jaw. Paleontologists reconstructed their motion from fossilized joints and muscle attachment scars. The spines along each limb weren't random. They formed a cage, a funnel that guided struggling prey to the mouth. When the arms closed, the spines interlocked like fingers sealing a trap. The mouth itself is where ordinary language breaks down. It wasn't a jaw like ours. It was a concentric set of plates, jaw elements arranged in a circle that could rotate or clamp in a crushing motion. Modern analogs are few. Think of a wine bottle corkscrew turned into a crushing ring. For armored trilobites, that mouth could do damage. Scrape, pry, puncture. Fossilized trilobites with distinctive bite marks, and sometimes even matching the spacing of Anomalocaris' jaw plates, are the smoking gun. These scars tell a direct story. Predator met prey, and the predator often won. Inside museums and laboratories, the story grew more complicated and more dramatic. For a long time, scientists argued whether Anomalocaris was a top predator or a scavenger. Misinterpretations hung like fog. Fragments found in isolation were labeled differently, and some early museum displays even put the mouth and the body on separate mounts, as if they were different animals. Then, as more complete specimens arrived, and as imaging techniques improved, the pieces clicked together. The animal's body plan, the reach of the arms, the power of the mouth, and the evidence on prey fossils formed a single, persuasive picture. Anomalocaris was an active hunter, an apex predator sculpted by an evolutionary arms race. And yet, for all its prowess, this hunter had limits. Those limits, structural, ecological, evolutionary, explain a mystery that still puzzles scientists. What pressures shaped such a complex predator so early, and what weaknesses would eventually topple it from its throne? The answer lies not just in its teeth and eyes, but in the world it ruled. And a surprising twist to that world is what comes next. Picture this scene: a clear Cambrian current, sunlight slanting through the water, a patch of seafloor mottled with shells and soft fronds. Anomalocaris glides in, body undulating like a living saw blade. With a flick of those lateral flaps, it accelerates, the fantail steering with subtle precision. It doesn't lurch, it prowls. Then, with millisecond timing, the two frontal appendages dart forward, palms of spines opening like a fisherman's net. The prey is caught, drawn inward, and the circular mouth comes down with crushing force. We can almost reconstruct the strike because the fossil record preserves the weapons and the wounds. Scattered across the Cambrian seabed are trilobite shells, bored, cracked, and slashed in patterns that match the spacing of Anomalocaris' jaw plates and the reach of its limbs. Some trilobites show healed scars, evidence of near escapes, which tells us these encounters were not always fatal. That tiny detail, a healed bite, opens a window into a violent, dynamic ecosystem where predator and prey pushed each other to change. But how did Anomalocaris generate the speed and torque to crush armor? Paleobiologists turned to biomechanics. By studying joint placements, muscle attachment scars, and body shape, they built virtual models, digital puppets of an animal that vanished 500 million years ago. Simulations show the undulating flaps could produce powerful thrusts when coordinated in waves down the body. Those frontal limbs likely acted like grappling hooks, quick to snap out, then strong enough to hold struggling prey close to the mouth. The ring-shaped jaw, built from overlapping sclerites, could deliver compressive force across a curved surface, ideal for cracking curved shells. There's also surprising evidence that Anomalocaris wasn't a single, identical predator across the globe. Fossils from different regions show variations in size, in limb shape, in mouth structure. Some specimens reached nearly a meter long, others were smaller. This suggests a diversity of species or subspecies, each adapted to slightly different niches. In one shallow sea, a fleet of Anomalocaris cousins might have specialized in hunting soft-bodied swimmers. In deeper or muddier basins, another variety might have been better at ambushing armored trilobites. The predator's life, however, wasn't just about killing. Its role in the Cambrian ecosystem was structural. It shaped populations, scoured the seabed of the weak, and may have driven evolutionary innovation. When a predator becomes efficient, prey must evolve better defenses, thicker shells, faster burrowing, smarter avoidance. That escalation forever changed the trajectory of animal life. Some scientists see Anomalocaris as a central actor in an arms race that accelerated the evolution of exoskeletons, mobility, and sensory systems. Yet for all its evolutionary artistry, Anomalocaris faced limits that would one day seal its fate. Those limits were not just physical, but ecological. And the next part peels back the surprising vulnerabilities of this Cambrian titan. For a creature that ruled its era, Anomalocaris lived in a fragile empire. The Cambrian seas might look alien to us, a world without fish, without coral reefs, without the complex ecosystems we know today. Yet even then, the same forces that topple empires were at play: change, competition, and hunger. You see, the Cambrian Explosion wasn't just a boom in numbers, it was a battlefield of innovation. Every few million years, the rules of survival rewrote themselves. New body plans emerged. Hard shells evolved where there had been only soft flesh. Vision became sharper, limbs more dexterous. The prey were learning, fast. And Anomalocaris, for all its mastery, was built for a very specific kind of world, a world of soft-bodied victims. As more species armored up, the hunter's greatest weapon, that circular mouth, began to fail it. For decades, scientists thought Anomalocaris could crush trilobite shells. But when they built physical and digital models of its mouth, they found something unexpected. It wasn't strong enough to pulverize thick armor. The plates would flex inward under pressure, but not close tightly enough to break rock-hard exoskeletons. The once perfect predator was being outpaced by its own prey. Evidence from fossil sites reveals the change. Earlier layers, from around 520 million years ago, are full of soft-bodied creatures, easy meals for Anomalocaris. But in slightly younger strata, trilobites dominate, their shells thicker, their eyes more complex. Burrowers start appearing, creatures that lived hidden beneath the seafloor, far from the reach of those grasping arms. In this new age, stealth and armor became the currency of survival. For Anomalocaris, adaptation wasn't easy. Its segmented body, fine-tuned for gliding, couldn't suddenly grow claws or teeth. Its flaps were perfect for speed, not brute strength. And its diet, once rich with slow, exposed prey, now dwindled. Still, it didn't vanish overnight. Fossil records suggest it diversified, trying to keep pace. Some species grew larger, their mouths evolving new shapes. Others developed finer, narrower appendages, perhaps to sweep plankton instead of grabbing prey. But nature's clock ticks without mercy. As new predators like early fish and radiodonts with more sophisticated jaws appeared, the once unstoppable Anomalocaris became the hunted. Its fall wasn't spectacular. No meteor, no cataclysm. It was quiet, gradual, almost poetic. The same evolutionary engine that built it dismantled it. By the end of the Cambrian, the oceans had moved on, and the great predator's lineage faded into the fossil record. But one mystery remains, a question that stirs every scientist who studies it. How did an animal this advanced evolve so early, when life itself was still learning to crawl? The answer lies deeper, not in the fossils, but in the evolutionary code written before complex life even began. To understand Anomalocaris, you have to know the story of discovery, a detective tale played out over centuries. For decades, scientists stumbled over the remains. Pieces of the animal were described and displayed as unrelated creatures. A disc-like mouth was once thought to be a jellyfish, the spiny frontal limbs were labeled as shrimp, and the segmented body was catalogued separately. Museums stitched together a puzzle from fragments that didn't fit, until more complete specimens surfaced in those rare fossil beds that preserve soft parts. Only then did the image snap into focus, an animal assembled from pieces that once fooled generations of experts. This history is important because it shows how fragile our knowledge can be. Paleontology is not just collecting bones. It is interpretation, hypothesis, argument, and correction. The story of Anomalocaris teaches a lesson. Science advances when old certainties are questioned, and when technology allows us to see the invisible. Modern tools have rewritten the script. High-resolution imaging, including CT scans and 3D reconstructions, let researchers rebuild muscles, joints, and eyes in virtual space. Biomechanical models simulate how the flaps undulated, how the limbs closed, even how water flowed around the body during a chase. These digital experiments are more than pretty pictures. They let scientists test hypotheses about speed, bite force, and hunting style. A virtual Anomalocaris can dart after a modeled trilobite and show whether its limbs match the reach needed to snatch that prey. In some labs, researchers even 3D print models and run them through tanks to watch fluid dynamics in real time. There are little-known but revealing battles in the literature. For a long stretch, paleontologists argued over whether Anomalocaris targeted shelled animals at all. Some maintained its mouth couldn't crush hard shells. Others pointed to matching bite marks and healed trilobite injuries as proof it could. The debate sharpened when researchers started to compare the spacing of jaw plates and the geometry of bite marks. Slowly, consensus emerged. Anomalocaris could attack shelled prey under certain conditions, perhaps juveniles, perhaps lightly armored species, perhaps ambush situations where the attacker held firm and applied force at weak points. Those subtle reconciliations show science at its best. Not sudden overturns, but careful negotiation between data and theory. The anatomy also hides startling innovations. The lateral flaps are more than propulsion. They likely provided fine control for hovering and subtle maneuvers. The tail fan functioned like a trim tab on a boat, enabling tight turns. The compound eyes were not passive sensors. They tracked motion and depth. In short, Anomalocaris combined speed, control, and perception. A predator package that, in many ways, mirrors the design goals of modern hunters. But here's the strangest idea. Anomalocaris was not an evolutionary dead end, so much as a parallel experiment. Its suite of features, flapping locomotion, grasping appendages, a crushing ring, solved the same problem that later jaws and fins solved by different means. What does that tell us about evolution? That there are multiple ways to build a hunter, and that, in the deep past, evolution explored paths that no longer exist in living seas. What this ancient experiment reveals about life's toolkit, and how that toolkit foreshadows predators yet to come, is the question we'll tackle next. By the time we pull the lens back from the microscar on a trilobite shell to the sweep of Cambrian seas, a clear picture emerges. Anomalocaris was both masterpiece and message. It was a creature shaped by pressures we still see today: competition, innovation, the push and pull between predator and prey. And it was a reminder that evolution is creative, wasteful, and wildly inventive. It tried a design that no living animal now follows exactly. And in that failed experiment, there is a kind of beauty. Think of its legacy. Anomalocaris forced prey to armor up, to flee faster, to hide better. In doing so, it accelerated the arms race of life. It showed that vision, manipulation, and propulsion woven together create power. Later predators, fish, cephalopods, and the long line of hunters that followed, solved the same problems with different hardware: jaws, fins, and fins turned into limbs. Yet the Cambrian predator proves an important point. Complexity can arise quickly when the ecological stage is set, and life's toolkit is broader than the few solutions that survive to the present. There is humility in that realization. Museums show us tidy skeletons and labeled displays, but the real story is messier. For every lineage that persists, there are dozens of experiments that end in silence. Anomalocaris is one such experiment that left an outsized mark despite its disappearance. Its fossils, its bite marks, its virtual reconstructions, all are traces of a mindless intelligence wrought by natural selection. They speak of a world where evolution was not a slow, cautious climb, but a burst of wild invention. What if we imagine Anomalocaris not as a monster, but as a teacher? It teaches us to expect the unexpected in evolution. It teaches us that the past contains designs as elegant as any modern engineering, and just as fragile. It teaches scientists to be patient with fragments, to reassemble not only bones but hypotheses. In labs and on field beds today, researchers still overturn assumptions, guided by a handful of fossils and a stubborn curiosity. There's also a practical legacy. Studying how Anomalocaris moved, sensed, and captured prey informs biomechanics, robotics, and even designs for underwater vehicles. Nature's experiments, even those 500 million years old, are blueprints that engineers and scientists can learn from. The predator's flapping locomotion, its grasping appendages, the hydrodynamics of its body. These are problems we still solve, now with different tools and different goals. And finally, there is poetry. Imagine a creature that belonged to neither our modern classification nor our everyday imagination. An alien organism that once sliced through Cambrian currents and rewrote the rules of life. It is a humbling reminder that the world we know is one of countless possible worlds. Some paths became our ancestors, others became fossils. Both are part of the same story. So, when you next look at a polished trilobite or a grain of shale in a museum drawer, remember Anomalocaris, a predator that was impossible, then inevitable, then extinct. And in that arc, a lesson about the restless creativity of life. The Cambrian seas moved on, their predators vanished, but the echoes remain, and they still teach us how complexity begins, how conflicts shape form, and how even the most alien designs can leave a mark that survives for hundreds of millions of years.